Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Good to Know Shreveport-Bossier. This is a podcast that showcases all the good things happening in our community. My name is Jeff Binefor. In the seat to my right today is Paul Reeser. He's moved his usual spot from over on the left. Anyway, Paul is the president of the Reeser Group, Sonic Management Company. He's a member of the Committee of 100, or he's a board member. Now, each week we're going to be focusing on economic development, community growth, and other topics about initiatives having positive impacts on our community. We'll have new episodes every other Wednesday, and you can find Good to Know wherever you listen to podcasts. And of course, we have another special guest on this edition. So, Paul, take it away.
Special as usual, Jeff. We may be even bring it up a notch today.
Well, that's good, because we needed to do that.
So our guest today, Tim Magner. For the past 6 years, Tim has been president of the Greater Shreveport Chamber of Commerce. Awesome. Before that, but I found out he was the Chief Information Officer for LSU Medical School in Shreveport. And way prior to that, now this is something you don't hear every day around here, got his master's degree from Harvard University and your doctorate in leadership from Pepperdine University.
Correct, yes.
So
that's impressive stuff.
He's been all over the place. And now, probably something you really want to add to your resume, the pinnacle is a guest on Good to Know Shreveport-Bossier.
I have a slot on my resume, ready to go.
Hey, before we go any further, I got to ask you about Pepperdine. That's I hear that's the most gorgeous campus in America.
It is. It's very beautiful. The graduate school actually is in an office building near LAX, but I did get to go out to the Malibu campus a couple of times, and it's fabulous.
That's where they play their basketball, right?
It is. Yeah, I actually got to see them play. It was a great game.
Come on, tell me. I know you played there. Your cousin played there.
No, not this time.
Okay,
but I'm sure we'll find a connection later on.
Yeah, there's 2 degrees from Jeff Binefor, from everyone in the world from Jeff.
Indeed.
But I definitely want to talk about all things commerce going on in Shreveport. I know you've got great news, and you guys are so engaged in the business atmosphere there. But first, tell me, how in the world did you get from East Coast, West Coast, and then settle, right here in the middle?
Well, I married a lady who lives here, and
there you go. Say no more. That's how I got it.
It is, and it's a good reason to stay.
Absolutely.
So, a lot of folks like that, and no, it's a great community. I think that's one of the things that I have been around the world, literally in a lot of different places, and the opportunities that you have here, the quality of life, the expenses, the low traffic. Haven't had to shovel my driveway but once in 10 years. So there's a lot to recommend the community.
A lot of benefits from down here. So how did you become president of the Chamber of Commerce from the Chief Information Officer of Medical School?
So my background is in IT and education for the most part, but I also run a number of nonprofit organizations, both national and international nonprofit organizations. And so, if you're going to live in a community, you want to be able to contribute. And so when I was at the Health Science Center, this position came open, and given my background and frankly my interest in helping the community grow, I applied, and the board was good enough to give me the opportunity, and I hope they've been pleased with the results thus far.
We hear about the Chamber of Commerce everywhere you go. Chamber of Commerce, very influential organization. Just to get started, tell us what the Chamber of Commerce actually does.
Sure. Our focus is really on, as we like to say, growing business and building community. It's really about what can we do to help attract businesses, help businesses grow here, but also what can we do for the community. A lot of the work we do is in education. A lot of the work that we do is in not only educating businesses, but supporting our school system, supporting our higher ed institutions. And one of the things we're focused on right now is early childhood education, which is growing. So what are the quality of life things that we think the business community can engage in that really helps improve the opportunity and the attractiveness for the community? We're blessed in this community. We have a number of partners that we work with in economic development. We have folks at the Convention and Tourist Bureau and others. So we really try and be part of that constellation, both on this side of the river, across the river. We go to DC, we go to Baton Rouge with the folks on the Bossier side, because we think that it's really important for us to have a regional voice when we're in Washington or when we're in Baton Rouge. So it really is a combination of things. You know, it was interesting. We've been around for 112 years now. I tell people this is our second pandemic, and and it was really
nothing to laugh about.
Well, then I wasn't me. It was you.
It's pretty funny though.
But that's one of the things that we really found during the pandemic. You know, we did 15 weeks of webinars trying to get people, what do they do about COVID? What do they do about where to get their PPP loans? All of those things. And so it was really an opportunity for us in some ways to go back to our roots for the kinds of things that we had done 112 years ago when people came together and said, hey, we need a consistent voice for business in this community. We need to be able to have somebody who wakes up every day thinking about what our community needs, both from a business standpoint as well as from a quality of life standpoint. And it's really that legacy that we carry forward in being able to continue that mission.
So Chamber of Commerce, they're made up, most cities have them, they're made up of members that are actual business owners in the community.
Correct.
So when people tell me they want to start a business or they're trying to figure out how to connect, and whenever I had opened a business in another town, the first thing I would do was go get involved in the Chamber of Commerce. So tell us, if a person is interested in helping their business or finding out maybe they want to get into business, what does the Chamber of Commerce do for those members?
So it's a combination of things. Education, we have groups and we have sessions that we do on a fairly regular basis about everything from how to do business with the government to dealing with taxes or dealing with the kinds of accounting that you might need. So we do that sort of mainline education stuff. We also run the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, which is a mouthful, but that's actually helping businesses who want to do business with any level of government, whether that's the local, state, federal, whether that's the school system or the surrounding municipalities. We can get them if they need an 8A or they need to be a veteran-owned business or they need a hub zone or whatever. We can help them get certified for that.
It's a great resource. It's networking with other businesses. It's like, oh, I want to build in this area. You can go to the chamber and you can say what is available in this area, resources from the government, from the city. It's just a great organization for me, and the Shreveport is an exceptional, I think, Chamber of Commerce. So what are some things that you're excited about right now that are developing in Shreveport that you're getting involved in?
Well, I think what's been interesting to see is the shift, the sort of the post-pandemic shift. There's been a lot of energy in the business community. You had a lot of entrepreneurs and people who started businesses during the pandemic who I think are making a go of it. But you also have businesses that are reassessing what their business model is. Particularly on the food service side, I think what's been interesting is to see the number of places that have done takeaway or done delivery. There's now the Ghost Kitchen that's going to be opening up down in South Shreveport. So
the Ghost Kitchen, I didn't know that either.
And so the
ghost.
Yeah, but these pretty scary, Jeff. But I'll tell you about it later.
But these are interesting ways that businesses are adapting to deal with new opportunities and in some cases new challenges.
But you can't just close shop. You have to adjust.
You do have to adjust, and I think the variety of folks that have found online outlets or found opportunities to connect with folks. But on the flip side, you have new boutiques and stuff that are opening up because people want to come in and they want to touch and feel and see that unique item.
That's me. I like the going into the store experience as opposed to ordering online.
And I think for a community our size, we have a huge variety of those types of experiences in ways that I don't think you do in a lot of other communities.
So when you're looking to recruit new businesses to the Shreveport area, what are your criteria? What are you looking for?
Again, I think one of the things that we've done fairly well over the last decade or so is actually diversify the economy. We were heavily oil and gas, and I think folks who have been here for the bulk of their career will tell you that the dark days of the 80s or the 2000s when gas either went up and then went way down. And so the lack of diversity in the economy was a challenge that today I think when you look at the kinds of things that we have with GDIT and PRACIS and organizations like that are in the the IT space. The medical community that has really exploded around the Health Science Center, the kinds of biotech and other technology related activities that the BRF is doing. You've got really some interesting engagement there. What's happening out at Barksdale with the increased focus with Global Strike and the NC3, the National Communication, the Nuclear Communication and Command and Control Center, all of that upgrading of the nuclear arsenal, those are all areas of growth and opportunity for us in this community. You look at food and retail, we have really expanded the capacity of our economy to be able to deliver a lot of really interesting experiences to folks. And I think that is something that is serving us well as we look at the, sort of moving forward. I think the challenge for us, as it is sort of nationally right now, is getting the workforce into those roles, and I think that's where efforts in K-12 and particularly in our higher ed with our community colleges in particular are really opening up opportunities for people to find career pathways into the trades and into other more technical fields in ways that are new and also very very lucrative.
How hard did things become to making those connections and getting people into those new pathways and making and allowing the businesses to survive and thrive during the pandemic up to now?
Yeah, I mean, I think when the history is written of the pandemic, one of the things that I think will be deemed an unqualified success actually was the PPP loans, in part because the bankers really rallied. When you look at the variety and the number of small and regional banks who stepped up to work directly with people in some cases that they'd never talked to before, and they were able to create banking relationships and be able to get them loans. A lot of folks survived because of that, and I think that did two things. One is I think it gave a lot of confidence and a lot of clarity to our banking community and an insight into what was necessary to be able to support them from a capital standpoint, but it also preserved in many respects the variety of businesses opportunities that we had. And so I think that the flexibility or the longevity that provided for many businesses gave them an opportunity to retool or to look at their business model or to expand into other markets and other opportunities. So I do think that there were a lot of businesses that didn't make it, but those that did, I think were in many respects well run prior to that, to the pandemic, but they used that opportunity to pivot, or they used that opportunity to really look at what their business model was and how they could offer new service delivery.
Those were tough times. I mean, I would think that anybody that came through that, I guess still tough times really, but anybody that came through that probably is going to be stronger on the other end.
It was, and I also think though too, it's different. We always, in the before times, we talk about going back to the new normal.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Yeah, it seems like a long time ago.
It does seem like a long time ago, but I think it was fundamentally different when you look at the labor market, when you look at the consumer market. We're not back where we were in 2019. We are in a different environment right now, and I think it's a real credit to a lot of the entrepreneurs in our community who have been able to really adapt to that new reality.
It's interesting that you put a positive spin on the PPP loans, because they got in a lot of ways a lot of bad raps. They reported the big companies that took advantage, but really the banks did move very quickly, and it quickly got money into the hands of businesses, and the requirement was 75% of this loan has to go to paying your employees. Yep. So a lot of businesses that literally could not get a customer were still able to pay their employees. So I liked that model. I thought it was impressive, and like you say, local bankers were really quick on the initiative.
I mean, and again, I don't think many people realized how many all-nighters those folks pulled in order to make sure folks met deadlines, and really, really doing it in a lot of ways as a public service. I mean, they made a little money on it, but certainly not what you would ordinarily see, and so I think it was just an impressive opportunity.
Well, you talked about locally how we're starting the new normal. Businesses are starting to revive. A lot of interesting things are happening in the city. But part of, I think, our city's opportunity, and we hear it over and over from different guests, is location.
Yes.
And resources we have with rail lines and a river and an interstate.
Yes.
So, but there is a little bit of a misconnect right now on I-49. And
Sure.
how you're very well involved in that. So where are we at on the I-49 corridor, and how is that progressing right now?
So we've got a 3.5 mile section that.
And why is that important?
Well, that's important because it is the section that allows us to move, in many cases, trucking and freight through our city without having to go an extra 10 to 12 miles around, and without having to cross our water supply, which is the 220 bridge. And so being able to move that truck traffic from the port that you mentioned, from New Orleans all the way up to Texarkana and beyond, is really an important engine of commerce in our area. And right now, in fact, I was just the other day, I took a picture because there was this huge truck sitting on Spring Street going into downtown, because that is the most direct way. And if you're paying for gas, and we know gas is volatile, especially diesel fuel, and if you're a trucker or you're a trucking company or you have to move, you want to do the most efficient, most direct route. And if you have to go an extra 14 or 15 miles around the city in order to do that, many people won't do that. They'll go directly through. So you have these large 18-wheelers sitting on Spring Street going, with your car or whatever, and that can be overwhelming, but it's also not great for the streets. If you look at what's happening with 31, 32, you're wearing that out. And so that 3.5 miles allows us to move goods and services through the city. It also allows people in North Caddo access to the Level 1 Trauma Center without, a friend of mine lives up in Dixie, and he says there's 17 lights between where he lives and the Health Science Center. So God forbid something happens up there, the ability to get somebody to the Level 1 Trauma Center.
But there's several 1,000 miles of I-49 that are finished, right?
Correct, yes.
Except for these last 3.
So how, I've been hearing about this for the almost 8 years I've been here.
Yeah.
So it's, we haven't moved anywhere, really. I mean, so what's your prognostication, I guess, for how this thing is going to end up?
Yeah. You're from Pepperdine, too. That's the connection.
I jumped in the ocean there. That's
but there's a process, as with any highway construction process.
Sure.
Something called the EIS, an environmental impact statement. And one of the components of that is a cultural study. And so and I think rightly, they want to make sure that you're not sort of willy-nilly running over things that are, or eliminating things that have cultural significance.
Yep.
And so part of the process we're in right now is that cultural study. And once that is completed, that will be the last component for the environmental impact study. So we are nearing the decision point. My understanding is that we have an understanding with the state and the federal government that once that process is completed, we'll move forward with that. It's just a question of getting there, and that's something that I think unfortunately it takes time. You want to do it right because you're talking about people's lives and people's property.
Well, and that's the big holdup. I'm thinking right now. You don't want to say, oh well, we need progress and we don't want trucks on our highway, and I want to be able to get to Texarkana like that, which I can't. 75 miles an hour, but. Seriously, people are concerned about being displaced, about homes having to be taken down, and so what is the answer to that? The people who are saying, well, what about the neighborhood, and how much of that will be displaced? Well,
when you look at it in that 3.5 miles, you have about 54 buildings total, and many of those, if you drive up Allen Avenue, which is the area where it's likely to be, many of those are abandoned or in disrepair today. So the number of families that will be ultimately displaced is for the amount of for the distance we're covering is actually a very small number. In fact, if you look at the proposed route from 220 to Hearn Street, there's nothing there. That's just an open field area. So you really have about a mile or so, and it is on the edge of Allendale, so it doesn't bisect the neighborhood. And it also is much of the land is actually already owned by the city. So there is some displacement that will occur or could occur. But I think when you look at the overall benefit to the community, that's the dynamic that we're weighing, and the ability to get about almost $1 billion in annual economic impact from something like that.
And what happens to those homes, the people that, maybe it's only a dozen families displaced? Where do they get displaced to?
Well, what happens in those situations is that you have they're paid a market rate for their home, and I know the Committee of 100 and the Chamber and others are dedicated to ensuring that those folks have a displacement or a place to go to that is reflective of their needs and desires. And I think that that's an important component in this process, is that this is really a community effort, and we recognize that that comes with both positives and some downside, and we want to mitigate the downside to the extent that we can.
Well, let's see. Let's pivot a little bit.
Thanks for going there, because we definitely, and this is not the I-49 podcast today.
It's not.
But it's certainly a serious thing, and I know that there's a lot of people working on that. So I just was interested to know where it stood right now.
Sure.
So that's why I want to pivot. Let's pretend that I'm a business. I'm Jeff Binefor. I'm a business. I'm thinking about relocating somewhere. I'm in Illinois, and I want to get out of Illinois because it's oppressive, which it is. But I actually lived in Illinois, so I know what I'm talking about. But I want to move. I want to move my business, and I want to be in warm weather. You want to recruit me to bring my business to Shreveport, Louisiana. Talk to me about the selling points.
So some of that will depend on what your business is. Are you looking for land? Are you looking for a location? Are you looking for quality of life? One of the things that I think we have opportunities in all of those areas. We have ample open fields right now. The Chamber has some land we could certainly sell you, but there's also there's several industrial parks in the area. We also have things like the GM plant and others that we have physical plant that already exists. So if you wanted to relocate it and do that, but one of the most important selling points, I think, when you look at it, is the quality of life components for your employees. We have. I've lived in a lot of different places, and the transportation infrastructure that we have here, we have 55 festivals a year. We have great schools and great school systems. We have really tremendous food culture. We have, you can get anywhere in 20 minutes. I live the same distance from my house here in DC. I live the same distance from my office as I did in DC. I can be at work in 20 minutes. It would take me an hour and 20 minutes or an hour and 40 minutes. And so your ability to live in a 100-year-old house or a golf course or a lake or a downtown loft or a golf course community, all of those within 20 minutes, that becomes a real selling point when you're looking at trying to create and craft that work-life balance for your employees. So I think, we also have manufacturing here. We have access to inexpensive, relatively inexpensive power. We do have all of those transportation amenities. So to me, when you look at the package, this is a tremendous community to be able to engage in. You have access to high quality health care that's available locally here. There are 9 universities within an hour of here, so you've got 60,000 or so university students just in Northwest Louisiana along the I-49 and I-20 corridors that can be your workforce, in addition to your community colleges that are producing kids at a good clip who have real marketable skills. So again, I think this is a tremendous location. Our challenge is, in many respects, that there are places like us around the community, and I think, around the country. And I think part of what we're doing, and I know you have Stacy Brown coming in from the Convention Tourist Bureau later. We're working collectively to create the kind of brand and the kind of brand story that can help us tell those messages and communicate those messages more effectively and more compellingly to places around the country, both for people to come visit, but ideally for people to come stay.
Yeah. How hard is it when you're going up against, like, say, Tulsa, Oklahoma, or someplace in Florida? I don't know. Is it a tough sell?
Yeah, again, I mean, the folks who really live that every day are the folks at NLEP, the North Louisiana Economic Partnership, Justin Dixon and those folks. But what I can tell you is that, you know, we are challenged by some of the structural differences in terms of how taxing and things like that are done in Texas and other states. But I also think it's a question of how we put that package together. And I think recently, I think increasingly, the cities, the parishes have begun to work more closely together. I think the kind of effort and activity that we're involved with now, that sort of regional brand activity, is an important indicator of the kind of collaboration that is both possible and necessary for us to be able to create the kind of attractive dynamic that we ultimately want to see.
It's interesting. You mentioned the name. You mentioned branding in the last couple sentences. You said branding of the area to try to bring people in. So what are we doing? What is the chamber doing to improve that branding?
So again, we're working with all of the local entities on this destination master plan that I'm sure Stacy will go into great detail. So I won't steal her thunder. But
destination master plan. That's a teaser.
It is. Well, there you go.
The next episode.
Teeing up for you. See, partnerships work. But so what we're doing too is one of the things that we do currently is we produce an annual magazine that is really our newcomers guide, and that's an opportunity for folks to learn about the community. We're in the process of building that into a website so that folks will be able to, if they want to move here or they want to learn about schools or neighborhoods or the festivals and things like that, that are not from a tourism standpoint but from a destination standpoint, from, hey, I want to relocate, I want to live here. So we're really trying to turn that Choose Shreveport or True Shreveport-Bossier into something that is a platform so that people can understand and really see under the covers all the great things that we have to offer.
You mentioned a lot of festivals. I forget how many festivals there are, but there is a lot of things to do. 55.
See, I listen.
No, I mean,
So I
remember 50. That's right. I'm a retired hamburger flipper and lucky to be here. Thankful. But so how do people, if they want to get involved with the chamber, if they want to, maybe it's their chance to come check it out, or maybe they want to become a member.
Sure.
How do people get in touch with you and the Shreveport Chamber?
ShreveportChamber.org, or they can call us at 318-677-2500, and we'll be happy to connect them up and love to have them as members, and just excited to have them contribute to our community.
Well, look, we joked about those festivals. That's probably important stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, it's hugely important stuff.
Guys say, well, I'm going to have my business here, but my kids need to be engaged, and I need them to have a tilt-a-whirl right on a couple times a year.
I mean,
they still have those.
We have really world-class opportunities. Everything from the Rebel, we've got the film prize and startup prize and music prize coming up this weekend. We've got state fair. We've got Mardi Gras.
Fair of the entire state's right here, Jeff.
That's right. We've got
whole state.
We've got Mardi Gras. We've got. I mean, we have all of these things that happen. The symphony, the opera. You know,
The Strand.
We have.
Don't leave anything out. We get too many.
and that's
50. Give me the list of 50.
That's right. But that's the thing is we have so many of those amenities.
Yes.
And our ability to be able to take advantage of them. You can drive downtown, park right in front. I mean, you know, when you look at the competition that you have to go through to access a lot of those things in larger cities, the ability that you can probably still get tickets for the symphony concert this weekend. You know, that's wonderful because it gives you a chance to experience the arts and culture here in ways that you honestly can't in a lot of other communities.
We got a couple minutes left. Can you pull back the curtain on a couple big projects you might be working on right now, or does that got to remain top secret?
No, actually, the biggest project we're working on right now, honestly, is our building. The chamber building was built 100 years ago this year, 1922, and it was open to the public on December 6, 1923 as the public library. And we took it over as tenants in 1982, and this year we're actually taking it over ownership from the city so that we can renovate it and revitalize it. And we really want, it's such a gem, it's such an important part of downtown. And 100 years ago our community came together to build it, and we think that it's our responsibility now to come together as a community and renovate and restore it so that it was built, as they said in the newspaper at the time, as a monument to the future. And we're that future. And so for us to be able to take on that mantle, and so 100 years from now, when they're doing Good to Know, 100 years from now, again.
I won't be here. He'll still be here.
Right. But preservatives.
But that folks can really have something that they're proud of in downtown that they contributed in. I mean, the grounds are the World War I memorial. There's some just really important it's a really important cultural icon. And so for us, that, we talked about building community earlier. That really is something that we think is important for us to spur that investment, that reinvestment in downtown, but also that reinvestment in our community as an expression of who we are. So
what phase of reconstruction are you at right now?
Well, we just got the deed this week, so so we are very excited to be able to kick it off. We're going to be kicking it off later this month, and so if folks are interested in contributing and interested in being a part of that process, please let us know.
It sounds neat. Is that something you have to work with Liz Swain on? Or no?
It is, yes. Liz is great. She's going to help us figure out our historic tax credits, and because it is such an important historic building, we really want to make sure we do it right.
Call back to another great podcast episode with Liz Swain. Check that podcast out where she's talking about developing downtown. It's kind of like you don't see it all happening because there's so much in development right now. But there's people buying buildings, getting building permits, working with the state, but you're going to be one of those great buildings that begins that kind of cornerstone of rebuilding downtown. So
exactly.
Thank you very much.
See how that all ties together?
I'm telling you.
It's amazing stuff. All right, Tim, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Tim Magner from the Chamber of Commerce, and thank you for joining us for this podcast of Good to Know Shreveport-Bossier, brought to you by the Committee of 100 and KTBS Television. Remember to tell all your friends and colleagues about this podcast. We'll have new content every other Wednesday. And for more information, you can check us out at goodtoknowsb.com. So, as always, have a great day. Continue to make Shreveport-Bossier the best it can be. And as we always say, this is all good to know. Have a good one.
Good to know.